They didn't need to bury me. They were already erasing me while I was still breathing. The spaghetti was overcooked. Not that anyone cared. The smell of garlic clung to the air like a ghost that didn't know when to leave. I sat at the edge of the table, my oxygen tank hissing softly beside me, like a tired dog no one wanted around anymore. My cord got caught under Jacob's chair again. I reached down to untangle it, but my fingers were slow these days. Arthritis had made them stiff, like rusted hinges. I tugged the tube gently, trying not to spill his wine glass. Then it happened, an old man's cough, sharp, real from deep inside the chest, the kind that demands attention, that pulls a room's eyes toward you. But not this room. Melinda sighed loudly. Then came her whisper, low but pointed. He does this for attention. Jacob didn't look up from his plate, just kept chewing like his steak was more important than my breath. I stared at him. My son, the same kid I taught to ride a bike when his knees were still soft with baby fat. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. "You all right, Dad?" he mumbled, eyes on his phone now. I nodded once, "I'm fine." Melinda looked at me like I'd spilled something on her white carpet. "You should bring your tank earlier next time. That wheeze sets off my anxiety." I glanced around the table, 4 place settings. Not one glass of water poured for me, not one chair pulled out, not even a napkin. I wasn't a guest, I wasn't family, I was an inconvenience with a pulse. It wasn't the first time they treated me like noise. But that night, I heard it for what it was, permission to forget me. "You know," I said, finally breaking the silence, "I remember when this table was in our first house. Your mother used to polish the legs every Sunday." Jacob blinked like the sentence hadn't reached him. "She did that thing with lemon oil," I added, "remember?" Melinda stabbed at her salad. "That was, 20 years ago. The wood's basically rotting now." I pressed my hand to the table's edge. Smooth, warm, still standing, even if the people around it were. Jacob sighed. "Dad, can we not do memory lane tonight?" I pulled my tank closer. The hiss grew louder for a moment. "Sure," I said. "Wouldn't want to spoil the mood." Melinda laughed. A real breathy laugh. Jacob smiled at her, that weak, spineless smile I'd come to recognize. She leaned in, brushing his arm. "Maybe we should get a new table. This one's kind of haunted." The laughter stuck to the ceiling like cobwebs. Later that night, I sat alone in the den. The oxygen tank hummed beside me like a lullaby that didn't know its own lyrics. Through the hallway, I heard the clinking of glasses, the low sound of a show they watched without me. Jacob used to sit on the same couch and beg me to tell him war stories. Now, I was just the background noise to his wife's curated life. "He does this for attention." That line wouldn't stop playing in my head. Not the cough, not the dinner, not the tank cord under his chair. Just that sentence. I opened my wallet. Tucked behind my ID was an old photo, me and Clara. Our hands dirty with paint from building Jacob's crib. We were laughing, sleeves rolled up, the future unwrinkled. If someone listening, don't let silence swallow your story. You don't need a stage to be heard. Just enough air to speak. She rolled her eyes at my breath like it was a joke. So I started planning the punchline. It's one thing to be forgotten. It's another to be erased. The wallpaper was new, pale gray with gold trim, tasteful, cold, like a hotel that charged you extra for eye contact. I stood in the living room, staring at a framed photo of Melinda and her sisters holding champagne flutes. The frame was in the spot where my Navy portrait used to hang. The one Clara had insisted on framing herself, even though I hated how I looked in uniform. "Where's the photo?" I asked. Jacob didn't look up from his laptop. "Which photo?" I pointed toward the wall. "My service photo. It was there for 30 years. Melinda called out from the kitchen. "We're updating the aesthetic, trying to modernize." Jacob added, "We needed the space." I stared at him. "For pictures of her cousins." He gave a half shrug. "They visit more." The sentence landed like a slap. "They visit more." I built this house. Every beam, every screw. And now I was just another relic to be boxed up and put in the attic. I walked into the den, hopping for comfort. But my chair, was gone. "Where's the recliner?" Melinda looked at me like I'd asked where her toothbrush was. "You mean that ugly thing? It smelled like dust. We donated it." Jacob nodded. "You always napped in it too long anyway." I sat on the arm of the couch, my legs trembling beneath me. "Did you ask before doing that?" Melinda leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "We didn't think we needed to." I looked around, the bookshelf emptied of my war books, replaced with decorative vases and glass apples, the photos of Clara, of Jacob as a boy, gone. "Where are my things?" Jacob finally looked me in the eye. "Dad, you said we could redecorate. You told us to make the house feel like home." "No," I said. "I said you could repaint the bathroom." Melinda scoffed. "Details." That evening, I shuffled to the mailbox. The sun was low, golden like Clara's hair when it caught the light through our kitchen window. Inside the box, bills and catalogs. I sorted them by habit: Verizon, AARP, real estate junk, and then saw it. Property tax statement. It was addressed to Jacob L. Reed, 123 Maple Hollow Lane. No mention of me, not as a co-owner, not as an occupant. I flipped through the pages, only his name, not even a care of. I stood there in the driveway, wind pressing against my back like a warning. That's when it clicked. This wasn't redesign, it was removal, quiet, clean, paper by paper. Later that night, I sat in my bedroom, the only room left untouched. I pulled out the old manila folder with the original deed, marked with my name and Clara's. That paper was yellowed but alive. It told the truth. I walked down the hall and found Jacob alone, pouring a drink. "Did you change the title?" He froze. "What?" I held up the tax letter. "This says you own the house." He took a long sip. "It's just paperwork. I filed for homestead exemption, more efficient that way." "Without telling me." Melinda appeared in the doorway. "We're just trying to simplify things, Mr. Reed." "Mr. Reed," I said, the words like ash in my mouth. She shrugged. "It's legal stuff, you wouldn't understand." I looked at my son, Jacob. He looked away. "We thought it was best." They didn't steal the house overnight. They buried me under convenience, one signature at a time. I went back to my room, locked the door. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my hands. These hands that once fixed their sinks, paid their tuition, held their trembling newborn. Now they trembled alone. Outside, the house glowed with warm lights and laughter that didn't include me. I held the deed in my lap and whispered to Clara's memory, "They think I won't fight back." And then quietly I added, "But I've still got one room left, and it's mine." They weren't just stealing from me. They were stealing me, my mind, my name, my history. The kettle whistled, a high, shrill sound that made my chest ache. I reached for it, turned the knob, set the kettle aside. Steam curled like smoke from a battlefield. Melinda walked in, arms folded tight. "You left the stove on again," she said. "That's the third time this week." I frowned. "I just turned it off." She smiled, small and sharp. "You forgot." Jacob walked past with his coffee. "Dad, you've got to be more careful." I opened my mouth to argue, but the words stuck in my throat like dry bread. The flame was gone. The knob was off. I wasn't blind. But they looked at me like I was. Later that day, I lined my pill bottles on the counter. Same as always. Blood thinner, inhaler, vitamin D. I hadn't taken them yet. The caps were sealed, untouched. Melinda breezed by. You already took those, don't double up. I stared at her. No, I didn't. She picked one up, shook it like a maraca. You just don't remember. Jacob chuckled from the couch. Dad, maybe get one of those little organizers, Monday through Sunday, like Mom used to. I clenched the counter. I don't need a box, I need respect. They ignored me, TV volume up, my voice drowned. I began wondering, was I slipping? Was Clara right? Was age a thief with steady hands? Or was the theft happening here in daylight with witnesses laughing over reruns? The next day I sat with an old photo album. My Bronze Star photo, mud on my boots, fire in my eyes. Clara had framed it once, then tucked a copy in the album, proof of who I was. Melinda leaned over my shoulder. That wasn't you. I blinked. What? She tapped the photo. That was your father. You've mixed it up all these years. Jacob leaned in, grinning. She might be right. That looks older than Vietnam. I slammed the album shut. I lived that photo. I bled in that photo. Melinda whispered, relax, we're just helping. That night I heard the phone ring. The old landline still sat in the hallway, though rarely used. I picked it up too slow, missed the call. The machine clicked on. Mr. Reed, a voice said, this is Dr. Franklin from the VA. Just confirming your prescription refill for next week. Call back when convenient. Melinda walked in mid-message. She met my eyes as she pressed the erase button. The machine beeped. Message gone forever. Wrong number, she said softly. But she smiled, wide, victorious. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't age. This was war. Silent, suffocating war. At breakfast, I confronted Jacob. My hands shook around my mug. Melinda erased a message last night. He rubbed his temple. Dad, come on. She did it while looking at me. Melinda entered, hair perfect, tone sweeter than honey. You were dreaming again. You fall asleep in that chair and imagine all sorts of things. I slammed the mug on the table. I'm not imagining. Jacob muttered, Dad, maybe write things down. It'll help. Melinda added, or let us handle the important stuff. I looked between them. My son, my daughter-in-law, smiling like predators. Important stuff, I repeated. Jacob sighed. Bills, taxes, phone calls, you get confused. No, I said, I get silenced. Doubt crept in at night. Maybe I did forget. Maybe I did repeat myself. But then I'd remember the smile, the smug curl of Melinda's lips as she pressed that button. That wasn't my memory failing. That was her erasing. I began testing them, quietly. I'd write down when I took my meds, note the time, the dosage, then wait. Inevitably, Melinda would say, you already took them. I'd pull out the note, hold it up like evidence. She'd laugh, so paranoid. Jacob would sigh, Dad, this isn't healthy. But I saw the flicker in his eyes, the hesitation. He knew I was still in here. One evening I found the stove already on, flame flickering though I hadn't touched it. I knew then they were setting me up, preparing witnesses, building a case for incompetence. I turned the knob off slowly. My reflection shimmered in the window above the sink. You want me gone, I whispered, but I'm still breathing. Behind me, I heard Melinda laugh at something on her phone. The sound was sharper than any battlefield gunfire I'd ever heard. They wanted a crazy old man. They were going to get something else. Proof, paper trails, silence sharper than knives. That night I locked my bedroom door and slid the old deed under my pillow. My chest rose and fell, oxygen hissing beside me. They thought they were breaking me. But I was keeping score. Sometimes the only thing louder than abuse is silence. And sometimes all it takes to shatter that silence is an old friend who still sees you as human. I heard his boots before I saw him, still laced military tight after all these years. Eid, I said, opening the door, you're late. He smirked, you're still ugly. I let out a dry laugh. the first real one in weeks. Eid stepped inside, ducked under the low beam in the hallway. The same beam Jacob wanted to tear down. Modernize the house, he'd said, but I built that beam with my own hands. It stayed. Coffee? I asked. Eid raised a thermos. Already got the good stuff. We sat in the kitchen. Me at the edge of the table, Eid slouched across from me, his eyes scanning the room like he was on recon. "Where's your chair?" he asked. I looked at the empty corner, donated apparently, too dusty. He didn't smile, just glanced at my arm where the sleeve barely covered the fatting bruise. His voice lowered. "That happened in your sleep too." I shifted. "Door frame." He shook his head. "You always were a bad liar." I didn't need sympathy. I needed someone to believe me. And Eid had always believed me, even back when command wouldn't. "You're looking thinner," he said. "You eating?" "When I can." He leaned in. "They starving you?" "No," I muttered, "just ignoring me. Sometimes I forget to ask." Eid's jaw tensed. "You don't ask to eat in your own damn house." I looked down. The wood grain beneath my fingertips blurred. "It doesn't feel like my house anymore." That's when I told him about the mailbox, the property tax bill with just Jacob's name, the meds being hidden, the vanishing calls, and this morning my bank card declining at the grocery store. Eid's eyes narrowed. "You check the account." "I can't log in. Passwords changed." He let out a low whistle. "That's not forgetfulness, that's a siege." He pulled something from his coat pocket, a folded copy of the Veterans Financial Rights Act. "Did you sign a power of attorney?" "No." "Did you give them conservatorship?" "Hell no." "Then they're trespassing on your life, buddy." I stared at the paper. The font was small, cold, legal, but in Eid's voice it sounded like resistance. He tapped the paper. "You still got your discharge papers?" I nodded, safe in the crawlspace, with Clara's ring and the deed. A smile cracked his face. "Then we've still got ammo." There are few things the world respects more than a man with paper. Not fists, not shouting, but documents, verified, signed, dated. Eid stood, "Packing now." "You still got the landline?" "Yeah." "Start recording every call. Keep a log. If they so much as say you're forgetful again, you write it down." I nodded, feeling something stir, like muscle memory waking up. Eid leaned in. "We're not taking this to court yet. First we gather, then we strike." I chuckled. "You always did love a good recon op." He grinned. "Old habits." Then he got serious. "But I need you sharp, no slip-ups, no yelling. They want to paint you unstable." I swallowed hard. "They're already halfway there." He pointed at my chest. "Then we make M regret underestimating you." Before he left, he walked to the door, then turned. "You know why they're doing this, right?" "Money," I said flatly. "Not just that. They think you're too tired to fight back." He paused. "Don't prove them right." That night I didn't sleep. I listened to the hum of the fridge, the soft hiss of my oxygen, the ticking of the clock Clara once picked out in a roadside antique shop. They thought they'd buried me in routine, but Eid had just handed me a shovel. In the quiet of the night I opened the crawlspace. The box was still there. My discharge papers, Clara's letters, the original will, a flash drive with copies of our joint bank statements. I ran my fingers over the embossed seal on the discharge form. "You told me to stand down, Clara," I whispered, "but not this time." I closed the box, pulled it tight to my chest. And for the first time in months, I felt like I was standing again. They wanted to make me look broken, but I've been tested before, by bullets, by blood, by burying the only woman I ever loved. You don't erase a man like me with a pen and a clipboard. Melinda stood in my doorway, arms crossed, face painted in false concern. "Dad," she said sweetly, "we've scheduled you a doctor's appointment, just routine, nothing to worry about." I narrowed my eyes. I didn't ask for one. Jacob appeared behind her, avoiding my stare. It's for your safety. You've been forgetful. Forgetful, that word again, sharpened every time they used it. What doctor? I asked. Melinda smiled. A specialist in cognitive decline. We just want peace of mind. The office smelled like antiseptic and false sympathy. The doctor was young, too young to know what it meant to hold a rifle in the mud. He barely shook my hand. Instead, he handed me a piece of paper. Draw a clock, he said, with the hands at 10 past 11. I raised my brows. That's it. Humor me. I sketched the circle, placed the numbers, drew the hands steady as steel. He nodded, unimpressed. Now repeat these 3 words: apple, table, penny. I smirked. How about Purple Heart, Bronze Star, loyalty? He frowned, scribbling something down. Melinda leaned forward in her chair, eager, eyes glinting like she'd already won. Sir, the doctor said, have you been getting lost at home? No. Have you left appliances on? No. Are you sure? His gaze flicked toward Melinda. She spoke up before I could. Yes, he almost burned the house down last week. I slammed my hand on the table. That's a lie. The doctor raised a calm hand. Let's keep our voices down. I clenched my jaw, voices down, like I was a child in trouble. This wasn't a checkup. This was an ambush. Every question was a bullet aimed at my competency. Every glance between them was a silent verdict. When it was over, Melinda shook the doctor's hand like they were old friends. I was invisible again, just paperwork in a chair. On the ride home, Jacob said quietly, Dad, it's for your own good. I looked out the window. Who's good? Neither answered. That night I called Eid. My voice shook with rage. They set me up. Some quack with a clipboard tried to strip me of my mind. Eid didn't hesitate. We're getting a second opinion, a real one. Who? A VA neuropsychologist I know. Licensed, decorated, honest. Not bought by your daughter-in-law. The second appointment was different. A plain office. No theatrics. Just me, a woman in her 50s with clear eyes and no patience for liars. Mr. Reed, she said, I'm going to ask you some questions. Take your time. For an hour she tested me. Recall, reasoning, orientation. I recited every answer like I was back in a field exam. At the end, she smiled faintly. You're sharp. Minor age-related fatigue, nothing unusual. No evidence of dementia or decline. She signed her report with deliberate strokes. I'll give you copies. Keep them safe. Eid clapped me on the back. Told you. They're the ones slipping, not you. Back home, I laid the report on my bed. Clear as day, patient fully competent. I made 3 copies. One for the safe deposit box. One for Eid. One tucked under the floorboards of my room. Melinda knocked on my door that evening. So, she said, how was your little test? I looked her dead in the eye. I passed. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then it came back, brittle and forced. Well, she said, that's good to hear. She turned away quickly, but I saw the crack in her armor. My mind was intact, stronger than theirs would ever be. Their disease wasn't forgetfulness. It was greed, and greed eats away faster than dementia ever could. That night, I slid the report under my pillow, next to Clara's photo. I whispered into the dark. They want me incompetent, Clara, but I've still got fight left, and now I've got proof. The hiss of the oxygen tank filled the silence like a steady drumbeat. They thought they'd tricked me into surrender. Instead, they just armed me with evidence. They thought I couldn't count anymore, couldn't add up lies, subtract deceit, multiply suspicion. But numbers were always my weapon, and now the math was damning them. The safe deposit box smelled like dust and metal. The clerk slid it onto the table with a polite nod, leaving me alone in the little viewing room. My hands shook, not from age but from the weight of what I was about to open. I twisted the key, lifted the lid, and inside, old bonds, Clara's wedding ring in its velvet pouch, my discharge papers, and then a stack of canceled checks. At first glance they looked routine, but one detail stuck out: the signature. My name, writ in a hand that wasn't mine. I pulled the top one free. Pay to renovation consultant. Amount $18,000. Date 3 months ago. I whispered it out loud. Renovation consultant. The words tasted like rot. Later, at the kitchen table, Eid adjusted his glasses. He studied the check while sipping from his thermos. "This ain't your writing," he said. "No," I replied. "I write my R with a loop, always have. Look at that, straight as a ruler." He tapped the payee line. "Name's vague as hell. Renovation consultant. You ever hire one?" "No." 18 grand, he muttered. "What they renovate, your patience." I cracked a bitter laugh. He pulled out his laptop. "Let's run the name." Ed had the kind of patience that could gut a man without ever raising his voice. He knew the battlefield had shifted. Now it was keystrokes instead of bullets. Within minutes he leaned back, smirking. Well, well, guess who our consultant is?" I raised an eyebrow. "Who?" He turned the screen toward me. A social media profile. Smiling man in sunglasses holding a fishing rod. "Melinda's cousin," Eid said. "Lives 2 states over. Not a licensed contractor, not a consultant of anything, unless you count bass fishing." I felt the blood rise in my chest. So she forged my name to funnel money to her family. Eid nodded slowly. "And she left a paper trail. That's amateur greed." That night I sat in my room, spreading the checks across the bed. Each one a wound. 10,000 here, 12 there, all with the same false hand. I touched Clara's photo. "You warned me she wasn't right for Jacob," I whispered. I didn't listen. The hiss of the oxygen tank filled the silence. At breakfast I tested them. "Melinda," I said casually, stirring my oatmeal, "you ever hire a renovation consultant?" She froze for half a second, then forced a smile. "Why would I? We haven't done renovations." Jacob looked up. "We fixed the kitchen tiles." "For 18,000, I asked. Silence. Melinda sipped her coffee. "You must be confused. You're remembering wrong." I leaned forward. I saw the check. Her eyes flickered. "What check?" "The one with my name signed in your hand." Jacob chuckled nervously. "Dad, don't start." "I'm not starting," I said sharply. "I'm finishing." The room went cold. Gaslighting only works if the fire has no fuel. But now I had tinder, evidence, and soon the blaze would be theirs to contain. Later, Eid came by again. We sat in the den, voices low. "You got copies?" he asked. I slid the checks toward him. "Made 3, originals stay with me." He grinned. "That's the spirit." I studied him. "What's next?" "Chain of custody," he said. "We trace every fake payment, every forged signature. Build a ledger so clean even a blind judge could see it." I leaned back, oxygen hissing. "It's slow, painful." He nodded. "So's war. But the longer you wait, the harder the strike." That night, I placed the forged checks back in the box, tucked between my discharge papers and Clara's ring. As I closed the lid, I whispered, "Ammo." Because that's what they were now. Not just lies, not just theft, but bullets chambered and ready. They thought I was too old to notice, too weak to add, too tired to fight, but numbers don't age, paper doesn't forget. And when the day comes, these checks will be the first shots fired. They weren't just stripping me of money or walls or signatures. They wanted to rob me of proof I ever mattered. And when they touched my metal, they crossed the line from greedy to unforgivable. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind where the house creaked louder than the people inside it. I opened the drawer where I kept my medals, my bronze star, 2 service ribbons, a Purple Heart that still smelled faintly of metal and blood in my memory. The drawer clicked open, my breath caught. Empty space, The bronze star was gone. I whispered, "No, not this." I searched every drawer, every box. Nothing. My hands shook, not from oxygen loss this time, but from fury boiling in my chest. At dinner I asked straight out. "Jacob," I said, staring at him across the table, "where's my bronze star?" He blinked, feigned confusion. "What?" "My medal, the one I kept in the locked drawer, it's missing." Melinda didn't look up from her phone. "Maybe you misplaced it. You've been forgetful lately." Jacob smirked. "Yeah, Dad, you probably moved it somewhere and forgot." My fist tightened around my fork. "That drawer was locked. Don't tell me I misplaced it." Jacob shrugged, shoving food into his mouth. "Then maybe you never put it back." That medal wasn't just metal. It was a piece of Clara's memory of the man she loved. She kissed it once when I came home. She said, "This proves you made it back to me." And now my own blood told me it was nothing. Later that night, I sat at the computer in the den while they slept. Eid had shown me how to search deeper than the surface. My fingers, stiff but steady, typed bronze star medal, authentic, into eBay's search bar. The listings popped up. My heart stopped when I saw it. Photo after photo, one caught my eye. My medal, distinct scratch across the rim, a dent from when it fell in Saigon. Listed for $1,200. Seller name, Carson Collects. I clicked the profile. Address linked to Melinda's cousin. The bile rose in my throat. I whispered, "You sold my honor." The next morning, Jacob caught me at the counter. "Rough night, Dad. You look tired." I stared at him, jaw tight. "Where's my medal?" He sighed, annoyed. "Dad, you're obsessing. It's just a piece of metal." My voice shook. "It's my life, my blood. Don't you dare call it just metal." Melinda rolled her eyes. "Here we go again. He's going to start yelling." Jacob pointed his fork at me. "See, this is why we're worried. You get paranoid over little things." I stood, oxygen hissed at my side. Paranoid. They went silent, smirking at each other. "Keep laughing," I said, "but you won't be laughing forever." That night I called Eid. He picked up on the first ring. "Sam." "They sold my medal." Silence, then a sharp inhale. "What do you mean sold?" "It's on eBay. Melinda's cousin, Carson Collects. The bronze star with my mark." I heard his knuckles crack through the phone. "That's beyond theft. That's desecration." My voice broke. "Clara kissed that medal. Now strangers will bid on it like junk." Eid's tone hardened. "No more patience, Sam. We draw the line here." I gripped the phone. "What do we do?" "We document, screenshot every listing, save the link. Then we build a chain straight from their greed to your medal. You don't just get your honor back, you bury them with it." Patience had been my shield, but now it felt like chains. And Eid was right, chains don't protect, they strangle. I leaned back in the chair, oxygen hissing, heart pounding like a drumline in my chest. "They think I'm weak," I whispered. Eid's voice cut through. "No, Sam, they think you're silent, there's a difference." Before we hung up, Eid gave me orders. "Tomorrow we meet at the library, safer computers, no chance they trace your searches, we'll start the file." I nodded to the empty room. As I hung up, I opened Clara's letter box. Her handwriting curled across yellowed paper. "Sam, if anyone ever disrespects what you've given, promise me you'll stand tall, even if your legs shake." I held the letter tight, whispering into the dark, "I promise." The house had stolen my chair, my photo, my name on the deed. But now they'd tried to steal my soul. And that's where this war stopped being quiet. They didn't just want me forgotten. They wanted me mocked, stripped of dignity until even strangers laughed at my breath. But humiliation, once public, leaves a trail louder than silence. The knock came mid-morning, gentle. It was Mrs. Daniels from next door, kind soul, early 70s, always brought lemon bread on holidays. She handed me an envelope. No words, just her usual gentle nod and a hand on mine. Inside was a USB stick and a note. I thought you deserved to see it before the internet swallowed it. I turned to Eid beside me. Let's see what hell looks like today. The laptop screen blinked. The file opened with the scratchy sound of someone snickering. Then the image came up me, slumped in the recliner. Oxygen mask slightly off. I'd been dozing, probably after a rough night with chest pain. Melinda's voice off camera. Look at Grandpa Jurassic over here, dinosaur dreams. Her laugh was sharp, rehearsed, mocking. The camera zoomed in on the oxygen mask slipping just under my nose. My breathing sounded like soft whistles, painful, uneven. A dog barked in the background. Then Jacob's voice, chuckling. He sounds like a balloon deflating. The camera panned to my chest, rising and falling. Then the screen darkened. Comments flooded in. He's still alive. Y'all better check his pulse. Face. Put that fossil back in the museum. 12,003 views before it was deleted. Eid leaned back, jaw tight. This isn't just cruelty, it's public record now. They filmed me without consent, I muttered, humiliated me. They did worse. They exposed their own rot, he replied. I didn't speak for a minute. The oxygen machine hummed beside me like a quiet drum of shame. Later that evening, I confronted them. I held up the USB. You know what this is? Melinda didn't even blink. Another one of your tech tantrums. I placed it on the table between us. It's you, I said, mocking my breathing, my life, the thing keeping me alive. Jacob crossed his arms. Dad, it was a joke. A joke watched 12,000 times, I snapped. You think that's funny, stripping your father of dignity while he sleeps? Melinda scoffed. Don't be so dramatic, no one even knows it's you. I leaned forward. Mrs. Daniels knew, so did her son. You think the internet forgets, it archives. There was a time my son wouldn't even let me walk into a VA clinic alone. Now he lets his wife parade my pain like circus footage. Jacob shifted. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, I said. You already did that. I'm just holding up the mirror. Melinda tossed the USB across the table. Delete it then, if it bothers you so much. Eid, standing behind me, caught it midair. Oh, we're not deleting anything. She blinked. Who are you? I'm the one helping your father-in-law make sure this story gets told the right way. Jacob frowned. You're his lawyer now. Eid smiled. Friend, advocate, archivist. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, breathing steady, deliberate, mechanical. The sound of it used to annoy me too, until it became the only way I stayed alive. I thought of Clara again. She once told me, when people laugh at the breath you fight for, they've already decided you're dead inside. She was right. I pulled out the notebook Eid and I started. We titled a new page, Evidence Public Defamation. Attached the screenshot of the video, the comment log, the metadata. Beneath it I wrote, mocked by my own family for needing to breathe. I paused, then added, they didn't just try to erase me, they posted the erasure for likes. Every laugh they got online echoed in my lungs that night, not because it hurt, but because it clarified. When your pain becomes content, your revenge becomes a message. In the quiet of 3 a.m., I whispered into the dark, let's see if they laugh when the court projector shows that clip. The machine beside me beeped, one long breath, in, out. Some inheritances are made of silver and stone. Others are forged from silence, betrayal, and a quiet resolve to leave behind only the truth. Eid poured coffee into chipped mugs, steam curling in the air between us. You sure you want to do this today? I nodded. Been sure since the video. They made me a ghost. I'll return the favor in ink. The lawyer, Ms. Patel, arrived 5 minutes later, late 40s, sharp as a scalpel, eyes like polished glass. Mr. Carver, she said warmly, shaking my hand. Eid briefed me. You ready? I handed her the notebook. Every piece of it, all the lies, signatures, and slights. But this page, I tapped the most recent entry. This is the real start. She opened her laptop. You understand this will nullifies all previous versions. Yes, strip their names clean. I want no loopholes. Eid cleared his throat. The nurse, what's her name again? Lena Morales, I said. Comes every Thursday. Brings fresh fruit even when I tell her not to. Never once looked at me like I was a burden. She'll get what percentage? Patel asked, typing. 30%, I said. And 30 to the housing charity. Veterans should have homes before heirs have lake houses. And the last 40, she asked. I hesitated, hands shaking slightly as I reached into the old wooden box beside me. I pulled out Clara's photograph. The edges were soft from age. She was smiling, sunlight behind her, eyes full of that quiet confidence that kept me standing in darker years. A scholarship fund, I said, in Clara's name, for daughters who have lost their mothers. College or trade doesn't matter, just give them a shot. Ms. Patel nodded, impressed. That's beautiful, and Jacob and Melinda. I smiled bitterly. They'll receive something, a printed copy of the video, full transcript of the comment section, unedited, unfiltered. Let them sit with what they created. Let them explain to their own children, if they have any, why Grandpa left behind shame instead of shares. Patel finished typing. We'll need 2 witnesses, Eid and my neighbor, I said. Mrs. Daniels, she's seen more truth than they ever knew. Eid chuckled. I'll drive over, you sit tight. When he left, Patel looked at me. You know, most people at your age and your condition. I finished her sentence, just roll over. She smiled. I was going to say most people still hold out hope, forgiveness. I stared at Clara's photo again. Hope isn't always about healing what's broken. Sometimes it's about protecting what's still whole. Later that afternoon, all papers were signed. Patel stored a copy in her cloud vault. Eid made 3 backups on separate USB drives. One we mailed to a locked box in Clara's hometown. That evening, Jacob knocked on my door, first time in days. Dad, can we talk? I didn't look up. You usually let your wife do the talking. He sighed. We're worried about you. No, you're worried I might be worried. That's not the same. He walked in anyway. Look, I know you've been upset. I cut him off. Where's my Bronze Star, Jacob? He blinked. What? It was on eBay, sold through a vendor tied to your wife's cousin. Silence. Then you're being paranoid. I looked him straight in the eyes. So was Clara. The last year before she died, she warned me that greed doesn't just steal money, it erodes love. He opened his mouth, closed it again. You'll be getting something in the mail, I said. Your inheritance. Dad. You earned it, every frame of it. He stormed out. I sat back, oxygen hissing softly beside me, and exhaled through cracked lips. Some fathers pass on homes, others pass on names. I chose to pass on truth. Let it burn into their conscience like the ink dried on that will. In the quiet, I imagined Lena reading the letter that would arrive with her share. You saw me when others only saw inconvenience. I hope this makes your light shine even brighter. Then I imagined Clara smiling. They thought a signature could silence me, but ink like truth can cut both ways. The courthouse smelled like old paper and betrayal. I sat with Eid on the cold wooden bench, our shoulders barely touching. His grip on the manila folder was tight. You ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. We stepped into the clerk's office, and I handed over the revocation form. The forged power of attorney that Melinda had filed, the one that let her empty accounts. Signed checks speak as me, was about to die under real law. What's your reason for revocation? The clerk asked. I looked her square in the eye, because I didn't sign it. She blinked. You'll need supporting evidence. Eid slid the folder across the counter. Inside, comparisons of my real signature and the one Melinda submitted, the handwriting analyst's report, the notary statement. She skimmed it. The notary says she never met you. I nodded, never saw her, never gave consent. They brought her a form, said I was too sick to come. The clerk frowned. You're not. Not what? Sick. You seem sharper than half the people I've seen today. I gave her a tired smile. That's because I've had to stay sharp just to keep breathing. 2 hours later, the judge issued a freeze on all accounts linked to my Social Security number. Effective immediately, the court order read, pending full investigation into financial abuse and fraudulent POA claims. Eid handed me the certified copy. Congratulations, he said, voice soft. You just took your name back. They made decisions in my name. They spent money in my name. They humiliated me in my name. Now they'll answer to it. I moved out that same afternoon. The veteran-run assisted living cottage was small, single floor, no stairs, a clean bed with linen that didn't smell like mildew and neglect. The director, Sergeant Elaine, saluted as I arrived. No one rolls their eyes at oxygen tanks here, she said. You earned your air. I chuckled. I'll try not to use too much. No rent, she added. We got a fund for that. I glanced at Eid. He shrugged. Some debts just gotta be paid forward. That night I unpacked slowly. Only took a few bags. I left the rest. Let them keep the chair, the framed fake smiles, the silence. I sat by the window, breathing easier than I had in months. Eid returned just before sunset. He held out a small black box. What's this? I asked. He set it on my table. Open it. Inside, my bronze star. My heart stopped. Where's how? I reached out to the seller through a friend, told him a story. Didn't say whose medal it was, just said the man it belonged to was still alive. He said it felt wrong keeping it. I traced the edges with my fingers. I thought it was gone forever. Nope, Eid said. It was just waiting to come home. Sometimes pieces of you return when you least expect it. And sometimes the weight of metal in your hand feels lighter than the betrayal on your chest. Eid poured us each a drink. You know what's next, right? Yeah, I said. We take it public. He nodded, but this time on your terms. I taped the bronze star back into its velvet case. I placed it on the dresser beside Clara's photo. Thank you, I whispered, not sure if I was talking to her, to Eid, or to the man I was trying to be again. Maybe all three. Let them prepare their defenses. Let them spin stories. I had no rage left, only evidence, and a name I was taking back, one document at a time. It's strange, watching your own birthday party unfold without you, like attending your funeral while you're still breathing. The email came from a church newsletter. Subject line, celebrating Mr. Samuel R. Carter's 76th, A Life of Honor. I blinked twice before clicking. A photo loaded first, Melinda, dressed in bright floral, smiling as she cut a cake with my name on it. Jacob beside her, raising a plastic cup. A banner behind them, honoring Dad's legacy. Eid sat beside me, mouth already tight. Is this happening right now? I nodded. Live, says the stream links below. I clicked it. Up popped a shaky phone video. The crowd clapped. Melinda took the mic. Thank you all for coming, she said. Dad couldn't be here today. He's not feeling well. Laughter rippled softly through the crowd. He sends his love, she added. Jacob stood beside her, nodding like some prop. Not feeling well, I was dressed, sitting upright, breathing, and staring at the screen while they performed a eulogy for the living. Eid pulled out his phone and hit record. We're screen capturing all of it, he muttered. Names, faces, timeline. I watched as the pastor clapped Melinda on the back and prayed over a table full of cupcakes and collage photos. I wasn't in most of them, but I spotted a few, Old snapshots from the Navy and one of Clara and me on our honeymoon in Big Sur. My hands clenched. That photo was never meant for them, I said. Breathe, Ede reminded me. The feed panned to a wall display, a printed tribute letter Melinda claimed I had written, thanking her and Jacob for their care. My voice forged. I shook my head. She typed that, didn't she? Likely, Ede muttered. It's not even your tone. They handed out party favors labeled with my initials, mini gift bags. Inside, brochures for Carter Legacy Services, a home eldercare business Melinda had just launched. She used your name as branding, Ede hissed. God. They didn't just erase me. They repackaged me, sold my life back to strangers like it was theirs to curate. I watched Melinda hug an elderly guest, smile with exaggerated compassion. She's pitching her business to people using my fake illness. Ede typed rapidly. Trust me, the IRS is going to love this, he said. Tax write-offs for a party you weren't even at, using a name you legally reclaimed 2 weeks ago. My eyes stayed locked on the stream. And Jacob, he's just letting her run the show. Ede nodded grimly. Your son picked his side a long time ago. The stream ended with a toast. To Dad, Jacob said. The strongest man I know, even if he couldn't be here today. Plastic cups clinked. I exhaled. They love pretending I'm gone. Let them, Ede replied. Every word tonight was a gift. Later that evening, the lawyer called. I saw it, she said, tone razor sharp. The live feed, the fake tribute letter, the branding materials. This wasn't a party, it was a fraud buffet. I asked quietly, do we have enough? She didn't hesitate. More than enough. Financial fraud, identity misrepresentation, probable elder exploitation. Every document they handed out is now evidence. I sat back, let the silence hum around me. They thought they were burying me in soft lies, but I wasn't underground. I was watching, taking notes, sharpening silence into steel. Before I went to bed, I opened my drawer. Laid out the documents we'd gathered so far. My medical clearance. The will. The revoked POA. Melinda's signature trail. Screenshots from the live stream. The tribute letter, now downloaded and time-stamped. I placed the bronze star on top. They dressed for a victory lap, but the courtroom wasn't a parade, it was a reckoning. The bailiff called the room to order. Melinda sauntered in wearing designer heels and a smug smile like she was auditioning for a daytime soap. Jacob followed, eyes darting. He looked like a boy caught cheating on a math test. I sat beside Ede, posture straight. Suit pressed. The oxygen tank at my feet hissed quietly, steady, controlled. Melinda glanced back and rolled her eyes. Still dragging that thing around, she muttered. Ede whispered, let her run her mouth. The judge entered, everyone stood. Case number 4792C. Carter vs. Carter, motion to dispute power of attorney, misappropriation of funds and estate reallocation. My attorney, Ms. Rowland, stood. Your Honor, with your permission, will begin with evidence that pertains to fraudulent financial activity and the mental competency of Mr. Carter. Proceed. She cued the screen. A video played. There I was, slumped in my recliner, oxygen mask slipped sideways, mouth slightly open. Melinda's voice cackled through the courtroom speakers. He's probably dreaming about the dinosaurs he fought in the war. Laughter in the video, not in the courtroom. Melinda actually chuckled again. The judge didn't. Ms. Rowlands turned. Now, Your Honor, will present Exhibit B, a verified eBay listing for a bronze star awarded to Mr. Carter during Operation Desert Shield. Click. The projector showed the listing. Seller, Mendy Memorabilia. Shipping address, Lakewood, Ohio. Then came a check image, $18,000 made out to Derek Salazar. That's Melinda's cousin, Ede muttered. He's a DJ, not a contractor. Melinda shifted. Jacob's face lost all its blood. Ms. Rowlands continued. We'll now present Exhibit C, handwriting analysis. 4 checks, all allegedly signed by Mr. Carter, none of which match his actual signature, certified by a forensic document examiner. Silence. Then Exhibit D, the live stream of a birthday party thrown for Mr. Carter, without him present. Another clip rolled, Jacob giving a toast. To Dad, too ill to attend, but always in our hearts. The judge blinked. Was Mr. Carter medically incapable of attending? No, Your Honor, Rowlands replied. He watched it live from his residence. His physician's clearance is in Exhibit E. Jacob shifted. Melinda stared at the floor. Rowlands wasn't done. Exhibit F, the amended will. She handed a thick envelope to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. The judge read it slowly. To be clear, this will has been legally notarized, filed, and witnessed. Yes, Your Honor. And the previous will was filed under fraudulent pretense, using revoked power of attorney. The judge looked up. Mr. Carter, you are aware of all changes in this document. I wrote every word, I said. The courtroom leaned in as the judge read aloud. To the Veterans Housing Trust, the house. To Nurse Janice, who brought soup and silence when I needed both my savings. To Clara's scholarship, my legacy. To my son and his wife, I leave a printed photo of Melinda mocking my oxygen tank. Frame optional. A murmur, then applause. The judge banged the gavel. Order, this is a court. A man in uniform stood in the back, decorated, upright. Your Honor, I represent the Carter Veterans Fund. We'd like to thank Mr. Carter for his generosity and service. The courtroom clapped again, not for revenge but for justice. For once I wasn't the invisible old man in the corner. I was the man they clapped for, not because I fought back, but because I stood tall without swinging. The judge cleared his throat. Final ruling. The revised will is upheld. The power of attorney filed by Melinda Carter is void. All assets will be dispersed according to the new estate plan. Jacob collapsed into his chair. Melinda finally stopped smiling. Outside the courtroom, Ede patted my shoulder. You didn't just win, he said. You rewrote the ending. I exhaled deep, slow, pure. In war, you don't always get to pick your battlefield, but this time, I did. Some truths whisper in silence, but this one, it thundered, across news feeds, headlines, and every screen they once used to erase me. I didn't need to post anything. The story wrote itself. Decorated veteran wins court battle against son and daughter-in-law over stolen estate. Mocking an old man's oxygen tank. Internet turns on boutique influencer. Bronze Star betrayal. A family's fall from grace. Those were just from the first 24 hours. Melinda had 60,000 followers last week. By Tuesday, it dropped to 17,000. By Friday, her boutique sponsor, a high-end skincare brand, issued a statement. We do not support cruelty toward elders or veterans. Ede called, voice smug. You see the front page of the Gazette. No. I'll bring you a copy. He did. The headline. The eye roll heard around the world. Below it, a screenshot from the courtroom video. Melinda mid-smirk, me behind her, oxygen mask on, looking like death she was hopping for. I sipped my tea. She always wanted to go viral, I said. Ede chuckled, just not like this. Jacob went silent. He scrubbed his social media clean. No photos, no birthday posts, not even a trace of the tribute videos he'd made about me. But Melinda. She snapped. First, she posted a 6-minute video called My Truth. Tears, a white bathrobe, and a messy bun. They're painting me as a monster. You didn't see what he was like off camera. He was paranoid, forgetful, abusive. Eid clicked pause. Defamation, he muttered. Irony's a hell of a drug. 2 hours later, she deleted the video, but it was already screen-recorded. The comments were brutal. At caregiver vet mom, my dad has an oxygen tank. We don't mock him, we love him. At nurse from VA, I saw this in court. You're lucky all you lost was followers. At Bronze Star Son 87, you didn't marry a man, you married his wallet. At Sick Off Sick TikTokers, she thought elder abuse was aesthetic. She tried to sue the Gazette. The court threw it out in 30 minutes. Eid sent me the docket notes. Plaintiff's public record, video evidence, and courtroom ruling nullify defamation claim. She went quiet for 2 days. Then came the Instagram post, just a plain black square with white text. I was misrepresented. I've decided to take a break for my mental health. Comments were turned off. Too late for silence now. I walked to the pier that evening. My new cottage wasn't big, but it was mine, paid off, peaceful. The wind smelled like salt and old wood, familiar, clean. A teenage girl selling clams down by the dock looked up. Hey, are you that guy from the video? I nodded. She grinned wide. My grandpa said you're a badass. I didn't want attention, I wanted dignity, but sometimes dignity demands a spotlight. I mailed Melinda a single envelope. Inside, a screen capture of the mocking video. Below it, in my handwriting. This is the moment you lost everything. Frame optional. Eid warned me. She might try something else, manipulate public sympathy. I shook my head. They used their platforms to erase me. Now those same platforms are archiving every breath. 2 weeks later, a new article dropped. Veterans, charity receives anonymous $1 million donation after courtroom victory. I wasn't named. Didn't need to be. But I framed that one. It was the only article that mattered. They used my name like a footnote. Now it headlines a story no one will ever forget. Some storms don't roar. They just roll in quietly and wash everything clean. The locksmith arrived at 8:02 a.m. Gray overalls, quiet man, polite. Just the front and back, sir, he asked. I nodded, and the side garage they kept spare keys. He nodded back and got to work. Jacob came barreling down the driveway like he'd heard an alarm go off in his spine. What the hell is this? His hair was a mess, shirt untucked, breath sour. I didn't look at him. Just watched the locksmith click his tools against the knob like he was tuning a piano. You can't do this, Dad, Jacob barked. I still said nothing. Melinda stormed out next, barefoot, holding her phone like a weapon. This is harassment, she screamed. We have rights, we lived here for years. They always said we when they meant me. We paid the bills. We took care of you. We made this house a home. But the title had one name, mine. The sheriff's deputy stepped forward then, young, steady voice. Ma'am, the court issued a possession order. You were served. You had 30 days. Melinda's mouth opened, closed, then curled into something venomous. Jacob pointed at me like he was identifying a stranger in a lineup. You're really doing this, after everything? I met his eyes, cold, tired. You stopped being my son the moment you sold my medals, I said. Melinda let out a laugh, high-pitched, breaking. Oh, boo-hoo. You want the world to cry because you wore a uniform 40 years ago. The locksmith twisted the final lock. Click. I smiled. You know what, Dad, Jacob spat. Keep your damn house, it's full of mold anyway. Melinda hurled a lamp into the yard. It shattered, beige ceramic and cheap wiring in the grass. The deputy raised an eyebrow. I suggest you don't escalate this further, he warned. They retreated, fuming, as if the heat of their own anger would shield them. I walked up the steps, slow, steady. Inside, the place smelled like forgotten food and scented candles layered over mildew, cracked floor tiles, a dead plant in the corner where my reading chair once stood. This used to be a sanctuary. Now, it's just another structure abandoned by love and drowned in entitlement. I stood in the kitchen and took it all in. Every cabinet they changed, every memory they painted over. The fridge still had a magnet from a cruise I never took. Eid entered behind me, walking like the war never ended. "You sure you want to live here again?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, I just wanted to see it empty." We walked out together. I left the front door unlocked just for now, let it breathe again. Jacob and Melinda were loading garbage bags into the back of a dented SUV. Not boxes, bags. They hadn't even packed right. Jacob slammed the trunk. "You'll regret this." I tilted my head. "No, son, you will." Melinda opened her mouth to respond, but the deputy stepped in again. "That's enough, time to go." And just like that, they did. No final tearful goodbye, no apology, no moment of clarity. Just rubber tires crunching gravel, and the scent of stale perfume wafting in the air. Sometimes justice doesn't come like a hammer. It arrives like a locksmith. Quiet, precise, permanent. I stood on the porch a few minutes longer. Listened to the wind. Watched as a single piece of torn wrapping paper blew across the lawn, left over from the birthday party I wasn't invited to. I didn't chase it. Just let it drift. Silence used to feel like punishment. Now, it feels like a warm hand resting gently on my shoulder. The waves come in like breath. Steady, relentless, cleansing. Every morning, I roll my oxygen tank across the wood of this little porch, just wide enough for a chair and a memory or two. The sea stretches past the dunes like it has no intention of stopping. That's how I know I'm safe. Not because of locks or documents or lawyers, but because this place doesn't expect anything from me. Eid visited last week, brought fresh muffins and a flask of coffee that tasted like gasoline. He grinned. "You look lighter." "I weigh the same," I said. He nodded toward the ocean. "Yeah, but your spine, you're standing taller." It's funny how grief slouches you, and how justice straightens you right back up. The mailbox here still surprises me. No legal summons, no forged bank notices, just postcards, charity receipts, and a letter from the Veterans Foundation. They hung a plaque in my name. The will is public now. The scholarship fund in Clara's name has already accepted its first recipient, a young woman from Georgia whose father was also a vet. She wrote me a letter. "You reminded me that dignity isn't something you beg for. It's something you quietly hold onto when no one's looking." I cried. For the first time in months, it wasn't out of pain. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, checks on me every other evening. She brings tea and no judgment, doesn't ask about the past, just listens when I speak. "Your son ever call?" she asked once. I shook my head, and I don't wait for it anymore. She touched my wrist gently. "That's strength, not bitterness." Forgiveness isn't always spoken. Sometimes it's just choosing not to carry their names in your mouth anymore. The living room is simple. No digital assistants, no surveillance cameras hidden behind photo frames. Just a few real pictures, Clara's smile, my bronze star, and that one black and white photo of me holding Jacob when he was first born. I didn't throw it out. Some things are reminders, not of love but of lessons. Yesterday, a young man from the local paper came by. "Do you mind if we do a follow-up piece?" he asked. "The town still talks about you." I looked at him a long time. "Only if you title it something honest," I said. He smiled. "Like what?" "The man who did stay quiet." The air out here has weight, but it doesn't suffocate. When I lie down at night, the tank hums like a lullaby instead of a burden. I dream again. Not of courtrooms or forged checks or missing medals, but of Clara's garden, laughter, and Sunday radio. I wake up rested. They tried to write my ending for me, but I took the pen back, and I didn't just rewrite it. I signed it. Melinda and Jacob are ghosts now, not dead, but distant, irrelevant. The lawyer says they moved inland, no house, no job. Melinda deleted her online profiles. Jacob closed his accounts. Silence follows them now, but the kind that hollows, not heals. I wish them peace from afar. Sometimes, when the sun dips low and the sky burns gold, I whisper into the wind. If someone's out there, going through what I did, don't let silence be your enemy. Let your story breathe. Let it claw its way out of the quiet. The tide pulls in again. I take a breath. The air tastes different here. And for the first time in a long, long while, I want to keep breathing.